Good evening and welcome once again to Plain Talk. My name is Christopher Ram and I'll be your host for the next hour. Thank you so much for joining us. As you will have seen on the screen, the topic this evening is a state paper on the future of the sugar industry, a topic I will discuss with Mr. Raymond Gaskin. And as you know, Gaisuco has been in the news for several years. The question of whether it had passed the point of no return in 2014, as said by Dr. Clive Thomas, who is the current chairman of Gaisuco, or whether there is a possibility of saving Gaisuco. Indeed, the question is always asked, what does saving mean? Is Gaisuco a corporation, or is it rather an entire industry? And should you be looking at Gaisuco purely in financial terms and its cash flows and profit and loss account, or should you be looking at it in terms of the economic factors, for example, the foreign exchange earnings, the labor it creates, the fact that it helps to keep rural communities in place, and the consequences of mass migration from rural to urban areas, and very significantly, one of the roles played by the Guyana Sugar Corporation is in relation to the drainage and irrigation of the areas around which its estates operate. Now, if the Gaisuco were to be killed off or shut down, or by sectors, for example, we hear that the lower East Coast, the East Demerara estates will not be continued. The question has to be asked, what then will happen to drainage and irrigation, which affects a considerable portion of our population and possibly having some implication for Georgetown? Let me pose the question to Mr. Gaskin. Raymond, first of all, thank you very much for being my guest.
Thank you for having me here.
Is there a future of this sugar industry, for the sugar industry?
Well, the industry, as far as I understand, is Gaisuco plus cane farmers. Gaisuco is a company, it's the largest element in the industry, but Gaisuco alone is not the industry. That's the first thing I would like to say. Gaisuco is a company that produces most of the sugar, the largest employer of labor, and so on, but Gaisuco is not the industry. The cane farmers, the private cane farmers who also produce cane that contribute to the sugar, they produce about 10%. They're responsible for 10% of the production of sugar in this country.
Are you suggesting it's a misnomer to say that Gaisuco is more than a company and it's an industry? If you were to take Gaisuco out of the equation, do you have an industry?
If you take it out of the, no, you won't have, you'll have cane farmers doing cane the same way that people do coconut and the same way that people do other things.
None of these private farmers has a factory.
That's correct. If they don't have a factory to deal with the cane, you won't be able to do.
None of them maintains drainage and irrigation, for example. Yes, just for clarification. Yeah.
But Gaisuco is a company. It's a company. A lot of people believe that Gaisuco is more than a company. In my opinion, Gaisuco is a private company owned by the state, set up as a private company like DDL and Banks DAH, but it's a company and it ought to be run as a business. It is a business. It's in the business of producing sugar for export and for domestic sales and Caribbean sales. It's a company and it's set up to make a profit. It has management, it has capital invested, it's supposed to make a return on the capital invested.
You understand economics, you've studied economics. Is there a distinction? If you take two companies, all other things being equal, employment generation, revenue, profits, taxes, etc. But one is an earner of foreign exchange, and one is a consumer or foreign exchange. Is there a distinction between those two companies from an economic point of view?
It is good to have companies that earn foreign exchange, and Gaisuko is a net earner of foreign exchange. It also uses a lot of foreign exchange too in its work. It demands a lot of foreign exchange too, for the equipment and the fertilizer and all that.
Yes.
It's a net earner, although in recent years it has been earning less than this.
The question I'd ask is, all other things being equal, which contributes more to an economy, an exchange earner or an exchange consumer?
Gaisuko's contribution to this economy has to do a lot with earning foreign exchange. It's the largest employer of labor here. It's also responsible for a lot of spin-off jobs in those communities arising out of this where they operate. So, unlike say banks, DIH, or other companies that don't have that total involvement with the community, Gaisuko is a special company. It's a special company. It is a successor company of the sugar industry that was set up
Because
400 years ago, since slavery. It is a successor company in more recent times to Booker's and Sandwich Parker.
Yes.
And Gaisuko, in a sense, in my opinion, hasn't lost much of the culture of the Booker's and Sandwich Parker as a company with that old slave-owning mentality. And it continues to operate like that still, in my opinion, in 2017.
Are you suggesting that the
culture of the company,
the workers of Gaisuko are still the victims of a slave-owning culture?
Absolutely.
Are you suggesting that about the workers in the fields?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And the culture of the company, if you're familiar with company, which you probably are, we talk about, you know, like Barclays Bank, they create what they call a Barclays man, or IBM, or Microsoft, and Gaisuko and Booker's, they created what they call a Booker's man. And the Booker's men still running the place with the culture of Booker's. Hanneman and Bim and all of them, they're Booker's men. And they continue to run this place like slave owners. And Gaisuko, the sugar industry, has traversed from the chattel slavery to indentured slavery, and now we have wage slavery, but still slavery.
Let's get this clear. The slavery you're talking about, the original form and chattel, you didn't have trade unions in those days. You couldn't have trade unions.
No, we have trade unions now.
You now have trade unions. You have collective labor agreement. You have the right to strike. You have the right to protest against dehumanizing working conditions.
And we read in the this week in the newspapers, the public relations department set out in the papers the strikes since 2001. Gaisuko had 3,294 strikes since 2001 to 2016. Now this is very revealing. It is the only company in this country that has an average of 200 strikes per annum. And the public relations department of Gaisuko, when they set out this report on the strikes, they did not seek to analyze it.
Because that's the question. If this has been going on, surely they
should analyze
the duty of any management. Why is this so?
Yes. It's because of the conditions in the place. They're not far removed. The wage slavery that has come after the indentured slavery and colonial slavery and Booker's and all of that. The relations there are very bad between the workforce and the management. Well, the management is still Booker's people there. And therefore you have this unusual situation where one company has 200 strikes a year, even during the time of the PPP in government. And the Gawas, is the industrial arm of the PPP. And even when the PPP is in government from, say, 92, you still have 200 strikes a year of their own people going and strike 200 times per annum. And it tells you something about that place. It tells you about the management, and it tells you about the way they look at the workers there. And they're totally contemptuous, in my opinion. And you see it reflected in the state paper. We commented that just now. The management of Gaisuko, they're totally contemptuous of the people down there. Totally contemptuous of the workers.
Give us a couple examples. Those are broad statements. Give us a
Well,
couple.
the first example is the people on strike 200 times a year. That's the first thing.
Well, that doesn't show contempt, does it?
Which is the only company in this whole country where you have a situation like that.
No, but where does the contempt come in? That's my
How they treat them, that they have to
Okay.
go on strike 200 times a year, which is more than like 4 times per week, because of a whole set of problems in the field and in the company, and management cannot resolve these problems amicably, and therefore the workers have to just dung tools all the time, and the relation between the recognized union and the company is very bad, even when the union, which is a part of the ruling party, had to deal with the party in government, because the management, the mentality, the mindset of the leadership of the company is rooted in the whole Booker's culture of slavery and indentured slavery and chattel slavery. I've come to that opinion. We've seen it all the time, and I have a further opinion about that. That you go back to the slavery and the coming of the Africans and slaves and the Indians in 1838 and all of that. Not much has changed down there, you know. The first high school in Berbice was set up 70 years after 1838. The planters and the company and all of them didn't think that you need to have high school for these people. Once you could cut cane, their idea, you must go and cut the cane, that's it. And it's a company and it's industry that has tended to use Rodney's phrase, they've underdeveloped the Indians in this country. You got them on the estate, all you got to do is cane cutting. You got no other opportunities for them to do anything else. They've underdeveloped the Indians in this country since 1838. It is true that some Indians have broken away from the estate and distinguished themselves. Maybe 1 out of 1,000. Took them 70 years to do the first high school in Berbice. This guy took us bad news. And the management still, the Booker's men who still run this place, they're bad news. And that is why you have bad industrial relations, bad relations between the workers and the man, even when the ruling party.
I know you say, Raymond.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
But no, I was going on. You say 200 strikes a year.
Yes.
But a strike can last 2 hours, it can last 2 days, it can last 2 weeks. So
yes. Mm-hmm.
Is it too broad a statement to make?
No. In the report that the Public Relations Department put out about this, 3,200 odd strikes in the company from 2001, they set out the duration of the strike and mandates lost and wages lost. But what you have also being lost, of course, is production and productivity. Because Gaisuko, a strike at Gaisuko is not a strike at, say Guyana stores. When you go on strike at Gaisuko, the cane is lost. The cane is lost and the sucrose in the cane is lost.
Well, partly depends on the stage at which the cane is there.
But the last week, the marching in Rosa cost $17 million, the company calculated, that little marching what they had around the place. And the company has failed to analyze and get to the root of it and try to fix this problem with their workers over the years. And if they come to accept that you'll go on strike 200 times a year, it's not a big problem, but it is a big problem.
I notice you have a copy of the Parvatan Committee Commission of Inquiry report. The Human Resource Director of Gaisuko now is
John and them.
Or John.
Oh yeah, Booker's men. Yeah,
but
the Booker's people running
he's supposed
thing.
to be a serious human resource practitioner.
You're serious Booker's man, yes, practitioner, yes. Serious Booker's man practitioner, that's correct. And Hanneman too, and Bim and all of them.
Tell me something.
But the reason why this is so important, because when you look at the insolvency, I think it's the bankruptcy of Gaisuko now. This business of the relations between the workers represented by the union and the management and the company is one of the 3 principal reasons for the demise of Gaisuko. It is one of the 3 principal reasons.
Surprisingly, this state paper doesn't talk about that.
No, well, they don't know how to analyze anything.
No, well, you can't say this is by the Minister of Agriculture, who is himself an agricultural economist or something like
I'm
that.
not sure if he's an agricultural. I
And-
understand
no,
he
no.
used to. I'm not sure about that.
And don't I think it's fair to assume that Gaisuko has had a hand in the preparation of this paper. Professor Clive Thomas is one of our most brilliant economists. He has written extensively on sugar. He knows the sugar industry. So surely the best brains and the best politics would have gone into this document.
Ought to have gone. The best brains ought to have gone into this document. Well, a lot of brains went into the Parvatan report. That 9 or 10 best brains there with Thomas and Parvatan and a whole lot of them, Hoosty and all them looking into the industry. That's over a year and a half. They reported in October of 2015. And now in May 2017, which is after 18 months, now we come up with a 2-page document of what the government has decided to do about Parvatan.
Well, I'd like to discuss some of the specifics. And I don't know whether you want to give your overall impression of this document or you want to discuss some specifics. Do you think this paper does justice to the gravity and significance of the situation?
The paper is a manifestation of the contempt with which the government and the leadership of Gaisuko hold the workers. In my opinion, it is a manifestation of the contempt with which this company considers its people. And it's all written here in simple English. If you go to the document, when they talk about employment of labor, the employment of labor in the downsizing of Gaisuko, it's only 2 sentences.
No, but
Two sentences to deal with these 10,000 people that are being dislocated.
I mean, this is almost an idiotic statement. Gaisuko will retain as many workers needed for all operations. What does that mean?
I don't think it's I won't describe it as idiotic.
Was it?
Contempt for people. It is contempt for the workers. Because after they say that Gaisuko will keep as many needed as needed, then they come in the next sentence, which is the only 2 sentences in this whole document, to say what is going to
About
happen
labor.
About labor.
About
that
the,
employees
this is the
now,
largest
employment of labor in this country.
And all you can do is spend
2 sentences. And this is 10,000 people being sent home. 10,000 being dislocated and sent home.
Well, I think what would be useful is for you to say what this paper proposes and what are the implications. If we turn to page 7, amalgamation of estates.
Yeah, well,
Gaisuko sugar operation will be limited to Albion Rose Hall, Blairmont, and Iflock Wales.
3 estates.
That leaves out Skellon, East Demar Estates,
and more LBI, Wales, and Skellon is going to be closed and sold off separately altogether.
Now, this paper, which you say is contemptuous, I'm saying it's
idiotic.
It's idiotic.
Well, it could be both.
It can be both. It does not even say how many persons work, not only on these that they're retaining, but those that are sending home.
They don't want to tell you that, but we know that Gaisuko, the present staff there now is 17,000. The number comes from Parvatan report, 17,000 people there. And if you keep only 3, you would have to send home 10,000 people will be sent home if you do that.
By your arithmetic, Wales, East Demar Estates, and Skellon employ 10,000. Where do those figures come from?
3 out of 8.
No, you just can't.
You're keeping. You can go through it
I'm
estate
saying
by
this,
estate.
No, I'm saying this paper surely ought to have done that.
Yeah, but they don't want to tell you that. They don't want to use the 10,000 number that they're sending home. They don't want to use that. That's a big number. We've never had in this country ever any company presuming or planning to send home 10,000 workers. Only this company is planning that. Only this company. It is the only company that is so big that could plan to send them 10,000 workers. There's no other company so big. And that's what they're planning to do here. And they tell you that the way they plan to deal with these 10,000 people who are being dislocated is that these workers, after they're being let go, they must now rent the land from Gaisuko. They must rent the land. And what to do with this land, Gaisuko will tell them what to do on this land. It says here that to engage in crop types to be decided by Gaisuko and the ministry. They tell you that in plain
But
language.
surely, Mr. Gaskin, if Gaisuko knows so well what kind of crops to produce that will make money, why hasn't Gaisuko done it?
Why Gaisuko itself doesn't want to do
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Well, that's a good question. Gaisuko is saying, well, what we want to do with sugar, do they have another crops division they've been talking about and diversification? They talk about it all the time.
They don't mention it in here, though.
No, they talk about it somewhat.
Where do they start? They talk about sugar processing. And do you know
They'll
what?
keep sugar as a core function.
Mhm.
As a core function, but it's not to prevent them from doing other things.
Well, what other things? This is a state paper, man.
No,
you
well,
don't have to speculate.
They don't. Gaisuko proposes pending action on divestment to proceed with a series of actions intended to reduce the burden on the corporation.
What the hell
They're
does
not
that
specific.
mean?
They're not specific. The only thing is clear about, they're only keeping 3 estates. That is
That's the only
thing,
thing.
yes. 3 estates, 10,000 people going home.
No,
and
they're
you
not.
they
They're
don't
not
want
clear
to use
about
that
They
number.
don't say that.
They don't use that number. And you can rent the land from them and do crops, and they will tell you what to do. That's what
But
they
they
say.
don't tell you how you're going to market these crops.
No, they don't tell you anything.
They don't tell you what support they're going to give you,
No.
other than to rent the land from them.
You will engage in crop types to be decided by Gaisuko.
Yeah, no, but
Yes.
these people
Mhm.
are cane harvesters, so they
Yeah.
suddenly become now.
Small agricultural producers.
Yeah.
With these.
I mean,
Non-sustainable crops.
Does that make sense to you?
They think that they don't. It makes sense to them. They can't come up with
No,
anything
I'm
else.
asking you,
No,
but
it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me. Well, what we have here in this situation is, and we've had it over the last couple of years with this crisis here, 2 hard positions. One, the union position. Keep the place going and keep the bailouts going $1 billion a month. Don't interfere with the status quo.
And that was irresponsible.
Yeah, that's the GAU position and the PPP position. As a matter of fact, the opposition leader said about a month or so ago that $12 billion a year out of $220 billion budget is not a lot of money, but I think it's a lot of money. And then the government saying, and I think the government is right in this regard, that this thing is not sustainable. So you have these 2 positions. The government is saying the bailout is not sustainable, and the union and the PPP saying it's keep it going.
Before we came on the program, we discussed this Jamaican situation where a U.S. company is prepared to pump money. What is being proposed here is to continue what happened in slave days.
Yes.
Produce raw sugar, nothing else.
That's correct.
Now, what about value added? What about mechanization? What about bagasse? What about electricity generation?
Well, the Skeldon has potential there for cogeneration and so on. That's why a lot of people like the Skeldon, this Skeldon plant, because that's where you have the cogeneration facilities.
But there's no reason why it couldn't be put at all your other estates.
The question is, right now, the government has no more money to put into this thing. They have no more money.
But
the $200 million US that was put into it for the Skeldon plant has failed. It hasn't produced a return on that capital invested. It's just contributed to the big debt.
The point is this: the government may not have the money, but is this the only option? What is represented in this paper?
That's the government's position.
No, I'm asking.
No, it's not the only option. It's that's what the government has been able to come up with. That's what they've been able to come up with. In the face of these 2 stubborn positions, keep the status quo and non-sustainable. And the government position is, we can't keep the status quo, we reject the union position, and therefore we're going to downsize this thing and send home the people. Nobody's come up with anything other than that. No middle position that takes care in some logical way of these people who are being dislocated by this downsizing.
Now, you've correctly pointed out, even with bauxite, we never lost so many workers at any one time. A government, of course, is a government for all the people. It has to control it has to manage the economy, it has to manage the urban areas, the rural areas. What's the politics behind this, if any, in your view?
Oh, I have an opinion that the government doesn't see this rice and sugar, these industries as being so important any longer, because they're expecting that when oil comes in 2020, everything will be okay. So we just have to bear the strain of this problem for the time being until 2020.
You know,
that's what the government is telling you.
but you keep telling me what the government's saying.
Yeah,
I'm asking
okay.
you for your views.
My views on what?
Does that make any sense?
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Can you have a single industry economy?
No, it
Oil?
doesn't make sense to
Even
me.
if it's just oil.
It doesn't make sense to me, but that's what the government is
No,
planning.
I'm asking you
What I think should be
yes,
done?
Yes.
Or what-
Because you know, I want to
Oh.
I want to raise this. I was reading today a parliamentary speech by Haslin Paris. I think he was former
Deputy Prime
Minister. Yes. And Haslin particularly said, we cannot have a one-horse economy. You have to look at your mining and your agriculture. Are we setting the stage for a colossal failure by almost saying, look, if Gawu wants to kill sugar, let them kill sugar. Or if the PPP wants to kill rice, let them kill rice. We got oil coming.
Yes.
Is that a sustainable
No,
argument?
it's not a sustainable argument. But that's the present attitude, I think, of the government. We have oil coming in 2020. And therefore, we could really... This is not a big problem to get rid of this sugar industry and this rice problem. It's not a big problem because 2020 will be okay. That's what they're saying. And they're not dealing with this thing in a serious manner. What is to be done with this thing? But in order to...
So we've gone beyond this paper now because we're talking about the whole economy now.
Yeah.
Are they dealing with this economy
But you see,
seriously?
the problem is this. You know what I find here? People, and I was talking to a medical doctor today, and I was telling him, and I asked him about how early in his training as a doctor does he learn about diagnosis and diagnostics. And he says very early in his training as
That one the first thing you got to do?
Yes. And here, there's no diagnosis.
You're not asking what accountants would do.
No, well,
That's not contempt for the accounting profession,
No,
is it?
not the accountants will look at the numbers. But there's no diagnosis of the problem. How this company reached where it is. Because unless you can do that, you won't be able to fix anything or to know if it's fixable. And they don't want to do the diagnosis of the problem here. And I told you earlier, there are three principal causes of the demise of this company. First, of course, in my opinion, has to do with this 200 million investment in Skeldon that failed. Gaisuco itself had to spend about 50 million US of its own money on Skeldon, all of which failed and down the drain. Then you have the problem with the workforce, on strike 200 times per annum, low productivity, and so on, and low production. And then you have the cut in price by the European people, the 36% cut. So here we're responsible, the previous administration and the union, for two of the three causes of the downfall of Gaisuco, and of course the European Union cut. Once we know that's what's caused the collapse of this company, then we can start to look and see what could be done.
But if you continue to do the same thing that you've been doing, raw sugar, that's all we're doing?
But we'll only do 147,000 tons. We'll just do a couple thousand tons to take care of the domestic, the Caribbean, and some U.S. Market and 50,000 for the international market, and then we will sell a lot of land. Clive Thomas, in his presentation to Parvatan
well, not only his presentation, he wrote part of the report.
He said the Gaisuko land sales, we could get 5.6 billion a year by selling surplus lands at Gaisuko.
He's been there for close to 2 years now.
Yeah, he hasn't sold anything as far as I haven't seen anything published yet. He said we can get 5.6 billion from land sales, we can get profit from packaging and cogeneration, and if you do 147,000 tons, you'll be okay. That's what he said.
But this doesn't provide for packaging and cogeneration.
No, but it doesn't. Well, this doesn't provide for anything. But you have to go back to the thing. He said they will retain sugar production as the core function. As a core function. It will divest the remaining parts and do other things and investigate what companies all over the world have been doing with this problem.
When the minister commendably presented his 2017 budget on November 28, 2016, he did say that by year end there was this special committee that was looking in, and by year end it would have come up, cabinet would have...
The cabinet subcommittee on this thing.
Would have resolved the issue.
Well,
what happened?
Well, they come with it now.
This doesn't say this is the cabinet subcommittee.
Well, it doesn't say that, but this is the state paper.
This says it's by the Minister of Agriculture.
But it's presented to the National Assembly by the minister. But this is the results of the whole cabinet subcommittee to deal with Parvatan and all of that and decide what is to be done. And that's what it says. That's what they come up with at the end of it.
Is there any indication that this is a cabinet approved paper in this paper that you've seen?
Yeah, a state paper on the future presented to the National Assembly by the minister is a cabinet document.
You're saying then that this is in fact the government's position.
This is the government's position.
And it is wholly inadequate.
Yes, of course it is. But the main problem of this thing here, is that it does not deal with the dislocation of so many thousands of people in this company. This is the main problem. And they try to dismiss the problem with 10,000 people in just one sentence. And they'll keep as many as you need. We'll keep as many as we need in the tree.
So you're saying, I come back to this about, yes, you're right, it is a state paper. That's what it's called. And state often means bigger than government, of course. But you have a Ministry of Social Protection. Lincoln Lewis is always reminding us we don't have a Ministry of Labor.
We don't have a Ministry of Labor.
Where is social protection in this document?
There's none. And that is why we have a problem developing, in my opinion, in Berbice, because these people are starting to march. They start thousands of them at one time, and in Enmore they're starting to march because they see that they're being thrown on the bread line. They're not seeing anything in the air for them, and they're starting to march. One of the problems with this marching, which is a very serious thing that bothers me a lot, is that when they started to march at Rose Hall, thousands of people, sugar workers and minibus drivers and the communities and so, the first thing the government did was to deploy large numbers of police up there with long guns.
Now, that is what is redolent of a century ago.
Yes, at Rose Hall, the Rose Hall uprising.
Rifelt is the same kind of thing.
So that's what you have.
The police is not the way to respond.
Well, that's what you have. This is what you have here. I think we have the makings of what is called a security state. And the first response of this government is to dispatch the police with long guns, plenty truckloads of them, to deal with this
Does
thing.
it strike you as ironic that Kemraj Ramjatan and Moses Nagamoto are central part of this government? They derive their base from the quarantine, and that Kemraj Ramjatan is deploying police to deal with this issue. Do you find that as ironic?
No, I find I would call it ironic. It's What I know of Ramjatan and Nagamoto, I'm not surprised at any of that.
What do you mean?
That's what they would do. The decision to deploy troops and police to deal with the what you call unrest on the estate there would be a cabinet position, a government position. Would be a government position.
But surely they have a big say in that.
They have some say in that, yes.
Mr.
And they would go along with it.
Mr. Nagamoto is Prime Minister.
Yes. And he would go along with that. He would not oppose that. That you have thousands of people at Rose Hall, the place is closed down, the people are protesting. The first thing they do, the security state sends up truckloads of police with long guns to deal with what the British did in 1913 there at Rose Hall.
But they also had similar situation at Rhineville.
Yeah, but and at Rose Hall when they went there, the police and the workers clashed at Rose Hall 100 and whatever years ago. And if we're not careful in managing this protest here and the consequences of all this, shall we say, insensitivity to people, we're going to have bigger problems.
Well,
it'll be bigger than Gaisuko. The problem will be bigger than Gaisuko problem.
Well, the government will argue, in fact, that that's a security problem and it requires a security response.
Well, I don't know if you have peaceful people protesting that their jobs are being lost. You have it's a security problem. The GAU is the recognized union in that industry, and the GAU is the agent, the entity that should be dealing with the employer on those matters. But we're not seeing that. We're not seeing the company engaging the union in these matters. Of course, one of the problems is the union is holding on to a stubborn position and the company has another stubborn position.
You talk about, you said contempt.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps not much better, but a slightly milder word would be the insensitivity. Now, when Wales was being closed down, nobody from Gaisuko went out there to meet them, to talk to them.
They wouldn't go. You expect Hanneman and Bim to go to...
Why not? Why not?
Because them is Booker's men. Them is Booker's people. They train like Bookers. They don't go to estate to talk to King Cutter.
What Sir John Campbell said?
Men more important than ships. But he himself never went. And all of his men he trained never went to talk to King Cutter.
No, but...
He said men are more important than ships. He said that.
Do these fellas learn anything?
Well, I didn't have learned them. I have heard what he said. But the senior managers at Gaisuko don't go to talk to King Cutters. Because of the contempt with which they hold these people. Because that is the culture in the place. That's the culture of the company. And this culture has come since the first Booker man came here in 1819 or whatever, the first Booker's people.
You know, in all of this, does it strike you that both the board and the management of Gaisuko are saying nothing despite all this loss of jobs?
What they're going to say? They said what they had to say here. They said we'll rent you, we'll lease you some land.
You're saying this is the government paper. So I'm saying that surely Gaisuko has an obligation to its employees.
Yes, they have. This is a government paper, but what the minister said when he presented it to the National Assembly, he said Gaisuko will keep as many of you as we need. And the rest of you will rent land from Gaisuko. He's talking about Gaisuko. He's the minister, but he's talking about Gaisuko. He said Gaisuko will retain as many as we need.
Look,
and the rest of you will have to rent land from Gaisuko. And we, Gaisuko and me, the minister, we will tell you what to do. That's what it says here in English.
Now, is this paper beginning to fall apart? I don't know if there's a better copy, but I got, this looks like it's, you photocopy something and you put the staple on them. Is this paper beginning to fall apart when you're hearing, the implied threat that if the Wales workers don't go to IFLOC, then IFLOC will collapse?
Yes.
But surely the law says that you got to pay people termination of employment once it's more than 10 miles.
But you have all this big, the towing and froing. And Gaisuko is saying, don't worry with this 10-mile thing, man. We need these people down at IFLOC to cut cane.
Gaisuko is not above the law, Mr.
Gaskin. I know that.
So what crap they're talking?
That's what they're saying, because it comes back to the question of contempt. contempt for law and contempt for the people. We tell you, go to IFLOC and cut cane. You go down there and cut cane. We're not severing you and we're not paying you nothing. You go there and cut cane. We'll pick you up in the morning at a truck and take you to cut cane.
So you spend about 3 hours just transportation.
Whatever. We want the cane cut at
And these are the same people. These are the same people who wouldn't drive in the air-conditioned 4x4 to go and talk to the workers.
No, they wouldn't go there. They wouldn't go there. This is the mindset of the company. The company has this culture. We say you must go to the IFLOC and cut the cane. But you telling me you want to be severed and you want money. We're not into that.
But
you go down there and cut cane.
The question I pose to you, Raymond, is that this seems to be falling apart because if IFLOC doesn't meet its target, then this 147,000 tons done.
Oh, well, what is going to happen here? This whole plan is falling apart, not only because of Wales and IFLOC, because of Enmore and Rose Hall. Because Enmore started tomorrow, them ain't walking, Rose Hall ain't walking, and Blaymont and the rest of them Albion ain't walking. Everybody gonna stop work. Let me tell you right now, they ain't no mood to work because they're not seeing nothing here that makes sense to them. And therefore, IFLOC and walking, Wales and walking, Skeld and Enmore marching every day, and Rose Hall marching every day.
Let me ask you what you understand this. I mean, you understand government and government speak.
Yeah.
You're
and
part
Bookers.
of it.
And I understand Bookers.
Well, now it's Booker's culture.
Booker's culture.
Hanneman
and Bim.
On page 6, the penultimate paragraph. Gaisuko also proposes to surrender land for lease to employees for them to engage in agricultural production.
Yeah.
The resources that exist under the green economy and regional food self-sufficiency drive would support this effort. Could you tell the viewers, what are those resources that exist under the green economy and the regional food self-sufficiency drive that will provide the support to these workers who go into agriculture?
If the minister himself knew, he would have said it. But he himself doesn't know what is all this gaff. This is what they call gaff.
But if you're talking contempt, you're talking about contempt by the Gaisuko people, or does this now extend to this minister?
And the government. The government and Gaisuko totally contemptuous of these people.
Because this here, you can't treat...
The green economy will help you.
So how the green economy will help you?
Well, there might be money available somewhere.
Where?
Maybe in the budget. After we surrender this land, and you renting the land from the company, these workers have to rent the land. It says there will be leased land, and they will engage in crops that we will tell them what to do. That's on page 7.
Yeah, no. But I know what you're talking about.
And to support these efforts, you're getting some money from the green economy money and a regional food self-sufficiency.
Gaskin, come on. You're not paying. You don't want to pay the people at termination.
No.
But you can pay them something else.
Well, you'll give them money to support them and this land what they rent from you.
Where is that in this document that money will be provided under the green economy and the regional food self-sufficiency drive? Which regional food self?
Well, this sentence...
Is that CARICOM? Is
CARICOM
providing
sounds
money?
like a region.
But is CARICOM providing money to support this drive?
There's a regional food self-sufficiency drive. And this will support these efforts over here on page 7 with these crop types that you're doing what we tell you. The two things have to be taken together.
I know the two things, but if you say there are resources, where are these resources? What's the quantum of the resources? How does one access it?
He doesn't want to get into that. He doesn't want to get into that.
But this is a state...
He doesn't want to get into that.
You have seen state papers in the past.
Well, I never seen anything from Holder. This is the first thing I'm seeing from a man called Holder. This is the first, but the fact that he produced it doesn't surprise me that that's all he's capable of producing. I'm not surprised that this is all you'll get from Holder.
But if, surely then, what's the word you're using, contempt?
Contempt.
Surely then, this is evidence of contempt.
Absolutely.
You tell the people this kind of nonsense.
Yes. The whole thing is contempt. We're not telling you nothing precise, nothing firm. And that is why the people dung tools and they're marching every day. And they're going to march every day. That's one thing who know to do good. March plenty and picket plenty. And that's what you're going to get.
Well, if you are saying
but the problem with
the
that,
slave culture
in the company
continues,
Uh-huh.
then people will march against slavery.
yes.
Okay.
And this they're impending the impending calamity that all these families are facing.
What do you see? What do you see? Let's say this goes into effect. What impact you see this having? You know, this downsizing three estates. What impact do you see this having on, say, the Skeldon area, the Lower East Coast, the Wales? How would it
Before we get into that negative economic impact of what is going to happen, before we reach
I'm trying to get a positive impact.
No, before we reach that point, I don't know if the forces of law and order could contain the dissatisfaction that will be vented on the streets steadily.
Let's say that
Which
they-
is
they
the
do.
biggest danger we're facing
Yeah,
here.
but let's say that happens. I'm asking for the economic side. I know you can't separate the economic from the security side. Let's say you can manage to do it. What impact is this going to have on communities, rural communities?
But there'll be nothing there. This is our subsistence farming. This is subsistence. But the cane cutters don't want to take 2 acres or 3 acres of land and do pak chai, boro, okra, and all that shallow.
You
They don't want
can't
to do
have
that.
economic farming with that kind of side.
Well, this is what you're talking about.
No, but again, we don't know.
But you got to rent the land. So if I lease in the land, if I'm the displaced worker, I have to lease the land to do this crop, which you're telling me what to do, whether it's okra, boro, or pak chai. So that's what you'll get, subsistence farming.
Let me ask you, where the skill is in Gaisuko to tell people whether you like your pak choy and your boro and what else?
Okra.
Okra. Where the skill in Gaisuko is to tell people that with any kind of seriousness and credibility.
Well, it said the crop types will be decided by Gaisuko and the ministry.
So the ministry is going to do it now.
Yeah, the ministry and Gaisuko will tell you what to do.
But I'm
After
asking
you rent the land
does
from me.
Gaisuko have the expertise and the skill?
Oh, they don't know 10,000 people dealing with here.
They must know.
10,000
They
people
must.
dealing
They
with
manage
here.
the payroll. They process the payroll.
They don't know how to deal with this problem. This report is an acknowledgement that they don't know what to do with this place. They know that it's not sustainable, $1 billion a month bailout money. They know that. But besides that, they don't know anything else. Besides that, they don't know anything else what is to be done. They don't.
What is to be done? Let's spend a few minutes in saying what is to be done. What do you see?
Oh, I've been thinking about this thing for quite some time now, and I do believe that this thing is costing about $1 billion a month, and from now to December 2017, when all this thing will happen, another $8 billion will go down the drain.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I do believe that the government and Gaisuko and the unions and so on should come together and use this money, this $8 billion that is going down the drain, to create alternative permanent employment for these displaced workers.
Whose duty is it? The government or Gaisuko?
The
Gaisuko is not in the business of finding employment for people.
No, Gaisuko sending these people home.
Yes.
But you got 10,000 people being sent home. The government, and because you will need some Gaisuko land too. You'll need maybe to set up industrial estates at Enmore, Wales, Iflock, and Rose Hall and so on, to do in manufacturing and so on, to train and retrain these people for other jobs.
Manufacturing what?
Plenty things. You can manufacture plenty things.
No, but like what?
Like furniture, like a chair, like manufacture furniture, for example.
Raymond, you know local furniture manufacturing is in the doldrums as well.
But
You're aware of that?
I don't know anything.
Yes.
But I know at Rose Hall, where they don't have any industrial factories and so on. Now is the time now is a good time, since you have this $8 billion available to you, to start setting up industrial estates to do some
Okay,
manufacturing.
furniture. Though
I'm
you-
not. I don't have to give the ministry all this thing. If they give
No,
me,
no.
I know what you could do. There are a lot of things you could do up there.
like no, but that's what I'm trying to find out. Like what?
I know there's 8 billion available.
Yes.
That we know. There's 8 billion available from now to December. I also know that
So
you
you're
could
saying
do.
send them home and give them the 8 billion?
Well, I don't know. If you were to take $1 billion, for example, say Rose Hall or say Enmore, and you had $1 billion available, let's talk about Enmore. I like to do this thing like one at a time. I would have started at Wales because Rose Hall is a big problem. Let's do Enmore closing. $1 billion economic development program for Enmore.
Yeah.
Maybe you could get another $1 billion from the banking sector if you had $1 billion. And then you sit down and create an industrial estate. You have industrial estate at Ranville and Collingen and at the back of Eccles and so on. So why you couldn't have one at Enmore, for example, and build a new industrial estate and employ people to do other things? Why you couldn't do that? There are lots of things you can do here. You got $1 billion available for Enmore. I said Wales would need about 800 million. Rose Hall would need $1 billion, and do other things.
And let's be clear, $1 billion is 1,000 million.
Yes.
So that's not
$1 billion, yes.
That's a lot of money.
But you got 8 billion from now to December. You're willing to throw down the drain on this stupidness here. Because you say you can close it in December. I say close them next week and get this 8
Yeah, because
billion.
if you're going to close it, you might as well close it right away.
Yes, and take
Unless there's on Rip Kane.
What
do you keeping it open for?
We're going to do it on Rip Kane. This on Rain, we put at 50 cents, sell it for 70. You know what I run Rip Kane? You have $8 billion that we know from now to December. You have this capital available. You have land, you have people. Why you couldn't do that? Create permanent, alternate jobs. It might be housing, it might be construction, it might be agriculture, it could be industry, it could be all kinds of things. The money is there. Don't say the money is there. The money has been going down the drain all the time, bailing out this bankrupt place. That's what I would do if I had the authority.
This paper says presented to the National Assembly. It doesn't indicate the date when it was presented. Has it been presented?
Yes, it was presented. It was presented. The minister himself presented it.
So there's no date.
But I don't know
Isn't that not what you do? You put as a footer on the first page?
Well, I don't know what the title.
Oh, you don't know
I know it was presented.
So you don't know that you've got a date, something?
Well, I don't know that clerical thing. But
that's not clerical at all.
What is to be done? 8 billion
No,
available for now
no,
to
no,
2017 December. That's the capital that's available.
Was this debated, or is this to be debated?
I think so. I think that normally you debate state papers.
That's what you do.
But this is the first state paper I've seen for a long number of years.
A long time.
Yes. But the money is available.
But
don't say that.
You
an
made a
accountant.
point. What I want to get. What do we do with this paper? Surely it deserves, defects notwithstanding, it deserves some kind of national discussion.
But they're going to be debated in the National Assembly. The PPP opposition there, they will answer it. And their position has been clear. The PPP position is the GAU position. Not to close.
Or vice versa.
Well, they're all the same. They're all the same.
I was thinking GAU's position would be the PPP's position.
And the PPP position is the GAU position. The GAU is the industrial arm of the party. They're all the same.
But surely, if we are going to have a serious discussion, this paper should be discussed at the estates and communities and University of Ghana. We have all kinds of things being discussed at University of Ghana. This surely warrants such an exposure.
The people at Rose Hall, they already heard and Enmore what's inside, and they've decided what to do. They walk in, they stop cutting cane there for the road. That's their answer to this. They've already answered this. And the people at Rose Hall, they've answered it. At Enmore, they've answered it. That's what you have.
Well, we have, I'm on Congress at the University of Ghana. I'm not sure whether it's something I need to be proud of or not. But you hear about the 10 Turkine lectures. Surely this should form part of a lecture. Mr. Holder should be quite willing to go up to the 10 campus and talk about his paper. Isn't that what democracy is about? Isn't that what Article 13
Yeah,
and Article 149C
But besides
are
that,
about?
we have the GAWO is a recognized union.
No,
in
we
the-
talk about this paper. We talk about the
the
paper.
paper. Whether the minister should go, he presented it in the parliament, he done with that, and the PPP will say what they have to say, and the debate will end,
So-
and that'll be the end of it.
But you're not suggesting that that's adequate.
Of course, it's
I'm
not adequate.
I'm suggesting that this should be put out there for public discussion.
Yes, nothing wrong with that. It should be put for discussion. But the people who are most affected by this, the 10,000 people, they've already absorbed what's going on here, and they've already reacted. They're reacting every day to this thing.
Well,
They're on the road and they ain't walking, they ain't producing. Until you could tell me something that makes sense, that's what they're saying. And in a sense, the union is not engaging the company sufficiently to deal with some of these problems. And of course, the company itself doesn't want to talk to the union.
Is the company, if they were to go and say, you know what,
Mhm.
we would like a session with the board of Gaisuko
Mhm.
to discuss this state paper.
Mhm.
Is that an unreasonable request?
For the union?
Yes.
Oh,
No, for the board. For the board to respond to?
No, the board should be talking to the union and the workers. But I don't think they do it. The two sides are not really engaged in finding solutions to this thing. One of the reasons for that is that both sides are holding on to stubborn positions.
No. We're saying, look, we're trying to find some midway. This paper is out. It's a state paper.
Ah.
It's about the future of a corporation and an industry.
Mhm.
Because this is the future of the sugar
So
industry.
Mhm.
Even though in the entire paper it's about Gaisuko.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So this is not, you started by saying, let me don't mix up the two.
That's correct.
These folks put them in one pot and
Uh-huh. Because without Gaisuko, the cane farmers wouldn't be able to do anything with their cane.
so shouldn't Gaisuko itself be leading some discussions on this paper? Do they have the spine? Do they have the intellect?
No, they
Do they
don't.
have the courage?
No, they're not interested in that. They had a report, Parvatan reported, the cabinet looked at it, and the cabinet said this is what we did, this is the decision. And now the management at Gaisuko, they will have to run with the cabinet decision.
You know, I would like to think it's only arrogance rather than contempt.
Yeah, that's all. It's arrogance and contempt, all of
But
that.
you're making it both.
Yes. Absolutely. And with the first response of the government to the peaceful process at Rose Hall is to mobilize large numbers of police with long guns to go up there and intimidate everybody that march in. There's a dangerous, it's a
And
very dangerous
This
thing.
is also going to have implications for you. PAY, maybe the cash flow isn't there. But NIS, you take 10,000 people out of the NIS roll.
Mhm.
You have a serious problem, partner.
Well, Gaisuko hasn't been paying the thing for some time now. It's in the 80-something billion total liabilities
But
position, the
but
PAY and the NIS.
But from time to time,
Mhm.
the government has been making good on that payment. I'm saying that if you take
10,000
those numbers
people out.
out, you are in
Big trouble. We've
dealing
never
with
had
the
a,
viability.
we've never had a situation in this country where 10,000 people being sent home and put on the breadline. We've never had it. Now we're getting it, and they're telling me that by year end you can get this thing. All this will be done by year end. From now to year end, we'll spend another $8 billion to save some cane, and at December we'll get the problem again. That's what they're saying.
Well, Raymond, I'm getting a warning from the operators. So let me say thank you very much. It's been a useful discussion, but more an academic discussion than a practical discussion, because we don't know who's going to take this forward. It's the duty of Gaisuko and its board. It's the duty of the government. It's the duty of the Alliance for Change to engage in some serious discussion on this state paper, on the future of the sugar industry. So once again, thank you very much. Operators, thank you. Viewers, thank you. Good night, and I'll see you next week.
A lot could be done with $8 billion. A lot of money.